Hello, you lovely lot, and welcome back to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. I am your host, as always, Josh Carr, and we're starting a new year with a new guest, a fantastic guest, another banger. I always bring them. We have got YouTuber, WhoTuber, and the Restless Doctor himself. I'm feeling rather restless and rather excited about this guest. It's the one, the only, the magnificent Miles Taylor. How are you?
I'm great. After that introduction, I'm doing fantastic, Josh. Thank you very much.
You know, it is part of my job to blow a bit of smoke up your ass. And,
just butter up the guests. Make sure they're doing good.
It's got to be done. It's got to be done. But everything I said is absolutely true. Thank you for coming on. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
A long time coming. Probably one of our most requested guests, I must say, from listeners.
Excellent.
People have always wanted you to come on.
I'm glad to hear it.
You lot at home better be listening. That's all I'm going to say. Let's start, as I always do, at the very, very start. Docky bloody Who. How did you get in to Doctor Who?
It's a good question. It's a bit of a complicated one because I know a lot of your guests, it's of my age, usually will say, oh, well, it was Rose that introduced them. And there's that iconic trailer which has brought a lot of people in.
Spoken about a lot on the podcast.
It's because it's for so many people that was what did it for them. But for me, it was a bit of a muddled one, really. My cousin was a big fan, basically. He was really into the classic series. He was into Eccleston's stuff as well, and basically ended up showing me a few stories here and there.
Nice.
A few classics. Legopolis, Castrovalva, The Mind Robber, Dalek Invasion of Earth, all the classics.
Yeah.
Even Castrovalva. And it was kind of through that I sort of got this little and often exposure to the show. My dad got me a copy of Doctor Who Adventures, the sort of weekly child magazine.
Yeah.
That was a sort of companion piece to the show. And by the time we got to Voyage of the Damned, that was the first time I remember actively sitting down and going, right, it's Doctor Who time now. And there we go. So it wasn't the first story I'd ever seen, Voyage of the Damned, but it was the first one that I actually sat down intentionally to watch live. Yeah. Even though apparently, according to my parents, they did sit me in front of Rose. I have no memory of that whatsoever. But
no memory at all.
No.
How old would you have been at the time for Rose?
I'd been 5. So
5, yeah. So you're quite young there, aren't you? So you might not remember, but but that means that by the time Voyage, I always say the peak Doctor Who time is like 7 or 8. You're in the prime time there, and Voyage of the Damned, that's pretty much slap bang there for you, isn't it?
It really was. It was everything that you want at that age. It was a Poseidon adventure in space with red aliens and robots with halos and everything. I love that story for so many reasons, and we're recording this near Christmas time. Spoilers to shattering the illusion there.
No, don't worry.
But so it's often one that I guarantee I rewatch around this time of year because it's so special to me. For not just because of the time of year, but also because it's that one of the first ones. You always have that attachment, don't you?
Yeah, I think Christmas specials are just proper magic. Well, I feel pretty much the same as you do with the Christmas Invasion, even though it wasn't my first story. I don't think there's an episode of Doctor Who that I've watched more than the Christmas Invasion. I think I've watched it probably about 6 times this year already. It's
odd how the Christmas Invasion can kind of slot in any time of year, regardless of the Christmas thing.
It really can. And it's like, I'm a whore for Christmas, so I don't need it to be Christmas time to watch something Christmassy.
I'm totally with you on that. Don't worry.
Oh, good. But I don't know what it is about it because it's not my favourite episodes, but it's just cozy, and I think those Christmas specials are cozy. So when it came to your early stories, I can't remember if you said so. In terms of a classic story, you were obviously introduced via classic first. Is there a specific one that stands out as wow, this has hooked me in.
It's interesting because, like I say, because it was so all over the place,
Mm.
I honestly, I wish I could pin down, like, here's the first one that got me.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't just classic. There was a few Parting of the Ways I remember watching.
Oh, so there was a bit of New Who mixed
Yeah, a
in there
little
as
bit.
well.
The
Right.
Runaway Bride, In the Height of Summer. There you go, another Christmas special that kind of works, to be fair. I mean, it looks like Catherine Tate is boiling in that dress.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember it's just sort of a mush of all them stories. But what I love most of all is that I was watching those black and white stories, you know, the Mind Robber, like, and the fact that it was black and white, that was 60s television. I would have been 6 or 7, you know, around that time that I was watching those things. And I was absolutely captivated. I just adored the stories. I remember me and my cousin going on a walk after sort of finishing one of the episodes of The Mind Robber where Jamie and Zoe get crushed in a book, and we were there going, what could happen next? What could possibly happen next? And they speculating about all these things. So I love that to me shows that regardless of age, you can still be captivated by any era of Doctor Who. And it'll always sort of live in your brain.
I completely agree. I think it shows that, I think especially at the moment, it's quite a hot topic really with like all the colorizations. I like the idea of making it more accessible for maybe a younger audience who, because obviously, you know, it's 2024. It may not be the most appealing thing to a child to go, come sit and watch the War Games with me. It's 10 episodes and, you know, it's all in black and white.
Yeah.
I think most kids would run a mile.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I do think there is something to be said, like you said, because I was the same, not with Doctor Who, but when it came to like black and white media wasn't really a barrier for me as a kid, because I remember watching things like The Monsters and the Beverly Hillbillies, like proper old school comedies.
Yeah.
From like the 50s and 60s. I remember sitting and watching those like on bank holidays at my grandma's and just being hooked.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you just put a kid in front of it and see if it catches, it could work. But I do agree that like the colorizations are a good way to maybe polish it up, maybe as a little gateway drug.
Yeah.
To
get them hooked.
To bring them in.
I agree. And I think that, I mean, the Daleks was so vibrant and gorgeous and beautiful.
It was a bit nuts, wasn't it? It was wild.
Crazy. It was like a drugged up version of 60s Who. I really loved what they did there. So I'm so excited to see what they do now, knowing what they now know after the Daleks has come out, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
I think the War Games looks like, maybe just from like the stills that we've got, but the palette seems a little bit more subdued.
Yeah.
Which I think fits the War Games a little bit more, you know, something a little bit softer.
Yeah, Zoe's shirt isn't quite as pink as Barbara's very white blouse. very pink blouse, I should say. Yeah. But Barbie had just come out,
you know,
so
they're not running around on like, you know, bright yellow battlefields or anything. But it looks beautiful. The stills and stuff and the clips that we've seen of the War Games, it looks gorgeous. So yeah, we're well fed this Christmas.
Yeah,
we and you will have been by the time you've all listened to this. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about you, Mr. Taylor. So you get into Doctor Who, you're hooked, you're a fan. However, which way you get into it, through classic and new and a bit of a jumble. Then you start a YouTube channel. Now this is quite a while ago. You've been on YouTube for what I can see is over 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of it is Doctor Who content. I'm not gonna delve too deeply into your first forays into YouTube, such as the Carrot song.
I knew
if anybody wants to see it.
Yeah. That was.
It's there if people want to watch it.
Yeah, it's there. It's a thing that happened, and it was one of the most popular videos I did on YouTube for a good while.
It is. I was looking at it. I was like, oh my god, this is popped off.
Yeah,
and it's a great little video.
It's really fun. It's a banger that slaps. You know, exactly. It's of its time. But yes, that was
all the kids are going to have that on their Spotify Wrap next year.
Guaranteed.
I tell you,
guaranteed. Kids today. Again, kids today will be loving it. I'm sure there's kids typing in.
They would.
Bluey and all sorts into the
Yeah.
YouTube and finding, oh, this is the Carrot
Fuck
song.
Baby Shark off.
Yeah.
It's the
Get the
Carrot
song on.
It's the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get the Carrot song on, baby. But you then delved into figure adventures. So what made you want to start, firstly with YouTube, and then move into almost like a form of, well, it is a form of stop motion animation, really. What made you want to do that? What drove you towards creating YouTube channels and creating these Doctor Who stories with your figures?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the show was a huge part in it sparking that creativity, as it does for so many. But the figure adventure kind of thing, I mean, I was a huge fan of, and I still am, of Ardaman and Wallace and Gromit, Chicken Run, all those. I mean, there we go. There's another thing that will date it. Wallace and Gromit's going to come out this Christmas. How amazing is that?
Yes, very excited for that. Very excited.
So stop motion was a thing that's always fascinated me. And then obviously it was the likes of people like Matthew Toffolo on YouTube, watching their creations and going, I want to slice of that pie. I want to try some of that out myself. And I think that's what's so amazing about this community, in that it's not just the show inspiring people to create, it's the people who have then created these things inspiring other people to go on creating. It's this big, massive snowball effect. You know, I wouldn't have done all that YouTube stuff without all those people that I watched on YouTube. So yeah, it was kind of born out of seeing those people, and going, that looks fun, and starting off making my own, which was very fun. And by the time that I made my last one, which is the War Doctor one, I mean, the degree of perfectionism in comparison to the early days has made it near impossible to carry on now. But yeah, it was a fun adventure for sure.
Yeah. And is that something that obviously you said there it's impossible to carry on, but is it something you'd ever be interested in? Maybe I'll give another go, maybe one more little figure adventure here or there.
Yeah, it always kind of, the fancy always tickles me. That's not a good phrase, but there we go. It's always one of those things. I think, it would be fun. But I mean, the reason I did that War Doctor one was because I think we were just coming out of lockdown and I had a bit more time on my hands, and I thought, maybe I'll give this a go. But like I say, the degree of nitpicking and wanting it to be just right for that one alone kind of made me go, if I did this again, I wouldn't stop. I would be there just constantly adjusting the lighting states and trying to make it look even better than the last one. So I think I would probably drive myself to insanity if I did another one. So I'm kind of happy to say that one is a good one to sort of end on, really. But
to bow out,
never say never, but maybe in this case I should.
And it's fair to say throughout your YouTube career, you've shown a massive affinity towards Doctor Who figures in particular.
Yeah,
you do a lot of figure reviews and things like that. Is that just going back to childhood, just getting obsessed with them? Because obviously, if you came to watching the show fairly late through, like Voyage of the Damned, in terms of watching it live, were you instantly then starting to collect these figures?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, as a kid, even if you're not aware of the show that they come from, toys are just, I mean, they were back then just magnetic. I mean, I'll be getting even from obviously the Doctor Who series I'd watched, all the monsters and everything like that, but I'd be getting classic series figures of episodes I hadn't even seen yet that were exciting. So no, for sure, I think that in terms of the figures, I was very quick to jump on that bandwagon, and I think my first one was probably the David Tennant and a little RCK9, and
what a classic.
That Tennant, its hand fell off, and there you go, Christmas Invasion variant. It's perfect. So yeah, it wasn't long before that all kind of. But I mean, literally, there's a Diddy Matt Smith right on my desk here as well. Beautiful. So they don't go away. And they've provided a lot of joy, both through being able to make these animations on YouTube and also just never growing up, always being a little, it's satisfying your inner child, here's what your inner child always wanted. So yeah,
exactly. I've not given in to my urges to start collecting the figures again, because all of my figures are in a box somewhere from when I basically had from every Doctor to Destroyed Cassandra. I think I had pretty much every figure that was possibly available, and most of them multiple times over.
Yes,
so
yeah.
They're all in a box somewhere at my mum's. We have not unearthed that box yet. When we do, I'm worried for my personal finances, if I'm honest with you, because I'm worried that it may spark up. I've indulged in some Daleks. That's all I've indulged in.
But that in and of itself is a dangerous habit, because I went back home recently and went into my cupboard and I had 3 Daleks deep worth of 5-inch monstrosities, and
oh my god,
they're a remarkable thing. But I had to say to myself, right, I have a problem, so I should probably stop.
Yeah, I do try and limit myself to Daleks and Sonics. They are my indulgences.
That's a good. You've got a manageable thing
Sonic.
there going. Yeah.
I mean, not now, because now they're going to do like 17 colour variations of Shooty Sonic, and that's going to bankrupt me. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's
but
fine.
Think of when you go on Antiques Roadshow in years' time, and the green version was very rare back in the day.
But I'll be there going, well, I'm not going to sell them.
Absolutely,
they're precious.
Absolutely,
they're precious. I'm gonna ask you such a shit question, but I just want to ask you, and it's a cruel question. If you had to pick, if there was a fire in your house, I hope there isn't.
Oh yeah.
And all of your little dollies are staring at you, saying, "Miles, save me, Miles."
They do that. Yeah.
Yeah. You, for some reason, can only pick up one. Which one are you grabbing?
That is cruel. That is genuinely cruel. But I'm here
it's
for the
a horrible
cruel questions.
question, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh gosh. I mean, part of me thinks, do I go sentimental and pick one of the first ones that I got? Do I go for one of the cooler ones like Sutek with the glowy eyes? I mean, that was pretty damn cool. I don't know. Oh, Josh, this is so hard. I think I'd reach for.
It's a horrible question.
Let's say, my David Tennant figure, because that meant so much to me, and obviously that's what started it all, really. So yeah, the old pinstriped David Tennant. Maybe the Series 3 one with his blue suit and glasses, answer. Because that was, I remember getting that as a child, and I remember being in Sainsbury's or Morrison's or wherever it was, and picking that thing up and saying to my dad, I'd love this new David Tennant in the blue suit, and my dad going, haven't you got like 3 of him already? And I'm going, no, but this one has glasses and he's in a blue suit, and him relenting after a few minutes. So yeah, I think maybe that one, because that was that's a very special one. So yeah, there you go.
Lovely. Well, that's a very sentimental answer.
Yeah,
I'm glad you didn't. I love that you picked the sentimental answer rather than, which one is going to be worth the most, what can I make the most money off? But, I'll let you grab the glowy eyes Sutek as well if you want.
Go on.
You can have
there we go.
Yeah, go on. And obviously I'm not going to set your house on fire, so you can keep them. Don't worry.
Yeah, just more want that on record. Yeah. Just to be clear.
Just I'm not an arsonist. I think that brings us on to something that this is basically how I got to know you. But sort of was quite late to delving into Across the Universe. What a wonderful series you've created.
Thank you.
Doctor Who Across the Universe. For anybody at home who doesn't know, you should, but maybe give people a little taster of what they can expect from a series like that.
Sure. I mean, I remember when I started those 2018, perhaps. I think Jodie was yet to begin. Because I remember using her logo on those covers, and it was kind of like, oh, this is the brand new logo. Which probably shouldn't have used. The BBC probably didn't like that. But yeah, I remember starting those, and originally they were going to be a series of, I think, Peter Davison audios. So thank God that didn't happen. But I ended up thinking, well, why not do some original stuff? Why not do a concept album of my series as I would do it if I was in charge of the show, and do those things that I'd like to see, and do it with have the bigger budget of the audio drama medium. I don't have to splurge out on costumes or expensive dollies. I can whatever's in my brain, I can put it out there. And so basically Across the Universe is essentially my original Doctor adventuring out amongst the stars, really. The name Across the Universe comes from a certain Beatles song, because I am a massive Beatles fan. And I was sort of thinking through, because I wanted to because originally they were just called Doctor Who, The Audio Adventures, and eventually I was like, well, that's too bland. We need a little tagline. And Across the Universe was just the one that shone out, certainly, and it stuck ever since.
It's beautifully fitting. Yeah, no, it's beautifully fitting. And, I've had a look. And from my count, I may have miscounted, 21 stories so far.
I will believe you, Josh, because I've lost count as well.
You have no idea?
No,
but 5 series you've done now.
Yes.
You've done 5 series.
Yes, that is true.
And they are fantastic. Again, I can't say it enough. Obviously, people who are listening, who've listened for a while, know that I'm currently working on my own audio series, The Peculiar Adventures of Doctor Who, which has been in production for a very long time. I have no idea how you get these out so quick.
But neither do I.
You are incredible. But I'm working on that, and I had already begun working on it when I found yours, and I'd been recommended yours when I started working on them by a few friends. They'd said, this guy's doing a similar thing to you, and it's incredible, and you should give it a listen. I did, and I'm sure some people would listen to them and think, oh no, he's beating me to it. But I was just so inspired listening to your work and everybody else who's worked on the series with you. And it made me just so excited to do it myself.
That's great.
And to go, oh my God, this is actually possible. And you can have these big casts and get writers in. And like you said, the audio medium is sort of limitless in terms of potential stories. So, yeah, it was a great source of inspiration to me. And there's some cracking stories in there.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear. And I'm so glad that you've mentioned all those fantastic people who worked on them and who made them possible. Not just the amazing cast we've had, of which your good self is included.
I am honoured to be the one and only Commander Kavrin.
Which I have to say, I remember. So I cast you in this part, and originally I'd just seen it as a traditional sort of Gallifreyan commander who spoke very normally, posh, that sort of classic series commander. And then here comes Josh and goes, imagine if Sean Bean was a Gallifreyan soldier.
I'm pretty sure that is exactly what I said to you. I seemed to, when I got it, I was like, oh, because I've not done much voice acting, but when you set me out, I usually just pinpoint. I almost cast it as someone else, and then I just try and match that.
Yeah,
which I've done with another thing recently that is soon to be coming out. But exciting. I loved doing Commander Kavrin. It was so much fun.
In fact, I think it was the audition where you did the Sean Bean stuff. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Or maybe you did a few takes.
I may have done. I think I did a couple of takes.
Yeah,
but I've got a few voices in my locker, and I thought there's not enough Northern Gallifreyans, so let's make him right proper Northern.
And it really worked for the character, because there's a little storyline involving Kavrin where there's this hoity-toity cardinal called Hester, who's very much against certain people going up the ranks and is very much for the old ways of Gallifrey. So
Yeah.
the kind of the class commentary that could be tied in with that actually worked really, really nicely.
Well,
so
I'm very glad. And you gave me a belting speech, which I believe is in the 3rd episode of Series 5.
Yes.
And that was when I read it to Jess, and I was like, this is going to be so much fun to record, because I am buzzing for this. And I had a great time with it. I just spent an entire afternoon.
I'm so glad you did. It was
fantastic
to have you on board. And also, given that you've got your own Doctor adventures as well, and here you are playing a Gallifreyan commander a la Colin Baker before.
Yes, it's my Maxwell moment.
It's your Maxwell. It's your Maxwell.
Moment.
It's fantastic. It worked so well.
Yeah, no, it was an absolute honour to be involved after listening to them. Because there's some great stories in there. I mean, I'm thinking of ones that stand out to me. The children of Earl Crigg? I'm trying to remember the pronunciation.
That was the audio book.
That was a short trip.
Yeah,
that you did.
Short trip, ironically, that was longer than half of the other ones.
I'm pretty sure I've listened to that every Christmas since I first listened to it.
Fantastic.
It's like a ritual with chimes of midnight.
Excellent.
They are my Christmas ritual audios. It's a banger, and Past Lives as well. I've definitely listened to it a couple of times.
That's one of my favourites. I mean, the fact
that's
that
a really good
all
one.
Came together, and the one and only Jonathan Carley playing
legend
Delgado. It was
friend of the show, Jonathan.
Friend of the show,
yes, friend of the show, Jonathan Carley, and obviously iconic because he's now the Doctor.
Exactly.
For Big Finish, he is the War Doctor.
Yeah, it's so funny because I asked him another project. I can't remember what project I was doing, but I asked him whether he could be involved, and he had to send me a message saying, "I know, I'm really sorry, but I'm actually too busy at the moment with work commitments, so I'm going to have to say no on this occasion. But all the best for the project." And I was like, "Well, there you go. That's absolutely fine. Thank you so much." And then it was only when a certain announcement came out that I went back to him and went, I think there was a reason why you weren't able to do that. And he went, yes, there was a reason why I wasn't able to do that.
Wonderful.
So
wonderful.
It was lovely to
he is
work
amazing in Past Lives. He's great in Past Lives. And I have been flying the flag based on his appearance in Past Lives for a while. I think I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast.
Excellent.
He should be Big Finish's Delgado.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That third Doctor range is one of the best ranges that they have. So I think it should. It's only a matter of time before he pops up in there. Please, I think that'd be fantastic. Yeah,
it would be. You did a great Sontaran story as well.
Oh yeah, it was early
I'm
on.
sure that starts with. Is it the Beatles at the beginning? What, the Doctor's blasting a song?
Oh, the Doctor's listening to Helter Skelter. Yeah, there's so many
Helter
Beatles.
Skelter, that was it.
There's so many Beatles references.
This is fucking sick. I remember exactly where I was. I was in the canteen at work, and I was like, "Oh, that is fucking boss." The Doctor's just rattling out Helter Skelter in the TARDIS.
I could see how that would be because when you write these things, obviously you're writing them for the audio medium, so you do have to tailor them for that. But I always write with that slight visual thing in mind of how would this look if it was shot, and I could see that moment. We'd be looking in space, and the TARDIS would shoot across the screen as the scream of Paul McCartney blasts out the speakers.
And that it comes across.
I'm glad.
And I've got to say as well, that's another. I hope that. I don't want it to seem like I'm copying or anything, but I hope when The Peculiar Adventures does come out, you will see that how much your series has been an inspiration, because there are a few little things that I have loved from your series that I thought that's a great little interpretation or a great little idea for the Doctor to do, and how can I do my own twist on that and maybe work it in.
Oh, fab, that's great.
So there's a lot of music involved in my series as well, because that moment in particular, I was like, I always think about it when I'm like, when I'm thinking about a piece of music to put in a script, I'm like, make it as cool as when Miles put Helter Skelter in.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I think about that a lot. It's a great moment.
Yeah, he's rocking across the cosmos. I love that, and I think there's always And you're always inserting. You'll find this as well. Because it's your own interpretation of the Doctor. I think you're always adding bits of yourself in there.
Yeah.
So obviously my love of the Beatles goes in there. I think there's another scene somewhere where he's humming across the universe. Funny that. And all this sort of stuff. And I've added bits of my kind of sensibilities and even like vulnerabilities and stuff like that, because that's what makes a character a character. So I think, it's really nice adding your own little bits of you to your favorite character.
And I was going to say that as well. I think you've done that wonderfully, because he's such a defined Doctor in my mind.
Great.
Like, I see when I think of incarnations of the Doctor, he comes to mind as his own
good
being.
Yeah.
And it really, really comes across. And you've got fantastic people that you've worked with as well. Like we said, Jonathan Carley, you've had some fantastic actors in the series, some of which I think there is some crossover, maybe if the odd person here or there who's also going to be appearing in the Peculiar Adventures.
I look forward to hearing them.
Yeah. What a series. I can't recommend it enough to anybody who is out there thinking, maybe you're in a bit of a lull with Doctor Who, and maybe this era isn't for you, or maybe you're just in between series and you're like, I just need another fix. There's many, many great fan creators out there who are making their own Doctor Who stories, which are fantastic. And I think yours is a great fix. You've left it on quite the cliff. I don't want to go too much into spoilers because I want people to go and listen. You've left it in a very, very interesting place for the Doctor at the end of Series 5. Is that an indication that we are going to see more, or hear more, I should say?
Yeah. You may well think that, but I couldn't possibly comment.
Well.
I mean,
close to his chest.
I would love to turn around and say you absolutely, this is, but like with anything, we've always got to see. But again, it's like Russell said. Here I am comparing myself to Rusty Davis. Even after he left the show, even though he'd finished Doctor Who, those stories still keep ticking over in your brain. You never stop those stories. And so absolutely, I'm certain there will be more. And what direction they take may depend on the sort of the cliffhanger that we've left it on.
Yes. Well, it's a another thing to say is that it's a full journey through the series. I mean, I'm sure there's people who could jump in at random episodes and you'd still have a lot of fun, like you can with any series of Doctor Who. But I'd highly recommend going right from the beginning. You've got a playlist on your channel that's got all of the episodes. Work from the top, just bang, 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 bang. Go through them all, and I'm sure you'll clear them in no time because they are a joy. So,
fantastic. Well, I hope everyone enjoys them. If you do go and listen to them, we had, as we said, amazing casts, amazing writers. Harry making one of the biggest tearjerker episodes that I've had the joy of working on. Angus and Joshua. It's been a real labour of love from everyone, and it's been a joy to sort of bring all those voices together of both actual voices and script writers and everything. So and I'm very proud of it.
Fantastic talent you've got. And Harry's a friend of the show. I know how incredible Harry is, and Joshua as well is also a listener of the show. So hi Joshua, and has also written a story for the Peculiar Adventures.
Fantastic.
I know is unbelievable, and there's so much talent in the fandom to sort of squeeze out and work with.
There really is, and it's great that we get to make these things, and as creators as well, they become a sort of portfolio. I mean, even the aspects of this were what the fantastic Izzy Walton, who plays Nancy Foster in the series, sent to Big Finish and got her cast in a box set, by Nick Briggs.
Exactly, yeah.
So these things are great for being springboards into who knows what else, for writers and actors and all sorts. So it's fab. Amazing. Oh, I just love it. I love that stuff so much.
I love it too. I absolutely love it. And it's like, it's like you can see the next generation right there in front of you, can't you? Like you can see the next Russells, the next Moffats, the next
these
next
these
Rob
are our kind of
Shims.
new adventures, Virgin books.
Exactly.
This is the equivalent in this day and age, and I'm sure.
And I would firmly put you in that category.
You're very kind, sir. You're very
one
kind.
of the next generation. You're a fantastic actor as well.
Thank you.
I feel like
Thank you very much.
I must say, you perform it incredibly well.
Thank you. Well, you were a fantastic Commander Caverin as well. So, compliment
Thank you very much. Well, it was a joy to play. That brings us on to a fairly new venture for you. Something that you've started, I believe it was earlier this year.
Yeah, I think yes.
It was around series 1, wasn't it? When Knowing Who launched.
Yeah.
You've as I join your world of audio adventures, you join the podcasting world. Very, very exciting. Again, to blow even more smoke up your ass, I'm a massive fan of Knowing Who.
Fab.
I have, up until now, listened to almost every episode because I'm halfway through the one that came out yesterday.
Oh, yes, there was one.
So,
yeah.
I'm halfway through that. And very rude of you to interrupt my Knowing Who listen this afternoon.
I apologise for interrupting myself here.
But it's fantastic. How did that come along? Because I know you and Ben met through work. I know you've gone into this on the podcast.
Yeah.
What inspired you to want to create a podcast together?
Well, I think I've always wanted to try out the podcasting game because there's people like yourself who have such fun that I was like, again, a bit like I was saying earlier about the action figure stuff. It was like I want a slice of that. So it was kind of always ticking away. I tried something on YouTube ages ago. I think it was called, something Who. I can't even remember. Who Talks, that's it. Who Talks. It was like a YouTube-y kind of podcast that I it was mainly for reviews and stuff like that. But I thought, one day I'll properly try doing the whole Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything, all that in one. And then myself and Ben met at work, and obviously very quickly, I think Ben might have seen some of my YouTube bits, and he's like, I know you're a Doctor Who fan, and that meant that we had something already in common, and we chatted a lot about Doctor Who, to the point where we were like, we should have a podcast, the classic interaction. And it was kind of around the anniversary, maybe a bit before, and I think we were like, should we start it for the anniversary? And life got in the way, as it does, and we didn't get around to it. So we were like, well, let's try and get ready for a launch alongside season 1, and that would be a nice way to sort of usher in this new podcast and put some graphics together, which is immense fun, isn't it? It's great when you start off.
It's the best.
Yeah,
it's the best when you get in the name and the graphics and the logos and everything together.
Yeah,
that's the best. And I think I said to you when you announced it all, I was like, oh God, this looks great. You've nailed the vibe. It's a great look.
I'm glad, and I mean, it's like, I've heard you say the same thing about Who Knew. It's like, once you've made it, it's like, well, it's got to happen now,
Exactly.
It's got to get out there. And I remember as well the name Knowing Who. I remember coming to yourself and being like,
you did, yeah.
There's a similarity here, and I want to make sure you're okay with that, because it was a name that I was just like, I mean, it's so catchy, and
I think I did mention this a couple of episodes back, that Knowing Me, Knowing Who, obviously because I'm a massive Alan Partridge fan, was pretty much the working title for Who Knew before I decided to change it. And I don't really know why I decided to change it. I think I just made the Who Knew logo first. And I think I even may have gotten as far as to making a Knowing Me, Knowing Who logo.
I want to see that.
It must be somewhere on my phone.
You have to dig that out of the archives.
I'll have to try and find it. I'll see if I can dig it out.
Yeah.
And I probably just showed them both to Jess and went, which one? And she just said, oh yeah, the Who Knew one.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the logo you
And
see
then
today. So yeah, it's
So
funny that. And
basically-
when you came to me, I was like, well, no, take it, because I think it's quite a good name.
It's a great name. It's a great name. And
It's
I'm
a
sure
great name.
I'd probably heard you say it, and like these things always happen. They sit in your mind, and I think part of me must have gone, did Josh? Was that Josh's? Is that Josh's thing? So I would better check just to see if you're okay with it. And obviously you were very gracious about it.
You know, it's technically Alan Partridge's thing, and if we're going further back, it's ABBA. So
So who can claim copyright to it?
who can claim it? Who can claim it? And yeah, it's a great listen to anybody who hasn't listened to Knowing Who. I would highly recommend it, because I don't know if I have said this to you directly. I can't remember, but there's a couple. I went through obviously this break that I'm now back from, this 18-month hiatus, and in that time I really dropped off listening to podcasts. I did not really listen to anything. I didn't watch a lot of Who content, and I didn't really dive into anything new, because especially podcasts, because it was just a little bit like, oh, it's just making me think about Who Knew and making me feel a bit sick. Anyway, I did a whole episode on that a few weeks ago, so if you want to listen to the reasons why. But earlier this year, I was like, oh, well, if Miles is doing a podcast, I've definitely got to listen to that. And it sort of coincided, just after George Sheard, who was on the show a while back interviewing me, launched Nostalgia Bait. So those two podcasts I was listening to religiously earlier this year, and I would absolutely give you a lot of credit for inspiring me to come back. So you've definitely played your part in the return of Who Knew.
I'm glad to hear it, because I remember Who Knew was my Spotify Wrapped the year before, or a year. It was in the top 5 of my podcasts,
about it,
and I remember you being like,
very
how?
Yeah.
But I really love.
Incredibly honoured.
I just to compliment your good self as well. I really love this show and the comfort of it, because it's so positive, and I think that's something that we desperately need in this day and age of people shouting down the mic these horrible obscenities and posting them online. I love the fact that there's these lovely podcasts out there that are so positive, and you really focus on why we love this show. And I think that's what we need. We need more of that. So
thank you very much.
In the same way on Knowing Who, I really, we'll obviously critique where it's valid, but I want to focus on the good stuff and what we have to sort of praise and be thankful for.
You're both great at doing that, and I think you're a great pairing, because from listening to it myself, there's quite a few times where you disagree on certain things. You have different outlooks on this episode should have done this episode should have done that, blah blah blah. But you approach it in such a great and interesting way. It doesn't turn into like a shouting match, or it's not, well, you're fucking stupid because you don't like this episode. It's a really interesting listen, because like, if you ever do disagree on things, you hear each other out, and you're like, that's interesting debate. But yeah, no, you're really smashing it. You're doing great.
Thank you so much, mate.
I'm absolutely loving the podcast, and I'm loving Ben as well. So Ben hadn't really done like any YouTube or anything beforehand.
No,
is this sort of his first foray into that? You've dragged it into this nonsense.
Yeah. This is sort of Ben's first sort of exposure to all this. I mean, obviously he watched content and stuff like that, but this is his first time sort of producing it. And Ben's in charge of the socials and all that sort of stuff as well. So he's really enjoyed having that as a project to, part of the project to invest in. And Ben comes from the angle of having seen the odd bit of classic Who, but predominantly being a new Who kid.
That's another thing as well.
Yeah.
It's a great balance between the two of you
Yeah.
in terms of your obviously you've both got great knowledge of Doctor Who, but your specific hot areas and your specific
exactly.
points that you maybe not as firm on, you always seem to pick up the knowledge. You've got sort of like between you've got a great knowledge of the whole arena of Who,
of the Whoniverse.
So the Whoniverse, as it were.
Yeah. It's great to have both of those sort of viewpoints and be able to, like you say, sort of pick up on what one of us knows more than the other and kind of educate us, get us to know Who more, knowing Who. And there you go.
Yes.
It's that's the kind of thing, is getting to know this show and getting to know why we love it. And I think that's what we wanted to do with that. And it's a lovely thing as always, just to chat about our favorite show. It's great. What more do you want?
What more do we want? And it's been great fun listening to it, and long may it continue. I hope you have many plans for the future, because I and many others are loving it so far, loving it. And I think that brings us nicely on to a little break, and when we come back, we've got some features to attend to. We've got a couple of collections to look at, some corridors to walk down.
Oh yeah,
and a little fiery hell pit to dip into as well. So,
oh God, no.
We will see you. Oh God, no, indeed.
Oh God.
We will see you in a few moments' time. Hello, and welcome back to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. I am still your host, Josh Carr, and I'm still here with the wonderful Miles Taylor.
And I've been dancing to that little tune as well. It's a lovely little break.
Yeah. That jazzy little theme tune.
It's gorgeous.
We've been having a little jig, but now it's time to get serious, Miles.
It's
time to get your game face on. Because we've got to take a little dive into one of our many features.
I can't wait.
Which is known as the DVD collection.
Yeah, it is.
By the power of Grayskull.
The Unicorn and the Wasp, or Love and Monsters?
Which one do you think I prefer? No, I mean, which one do you want to watch first? You are pulling my leg.
Yeah, it is. It's the DVD collection. For anybody who's unfamiliar, the DVD collection is a collection of stories submitted by my wonderful guests, which typify Doctor Who for them. Maybe it's a favourite story, maybe it's something that means a lot to them, maybe it's just a pure slice of quintessential classic Doctor Who. And there's many, many stories in here, and another one is about to be added by the one and only Miles Taylor. So Miles, talk me through. I mean, if you've got any honourable mentions, that seems to have become a thing recently.
Really?
So if there's any that you thought, maybe I nearly put this in, was it an and an ahhing thing for you, or were you just pretty much dead set on an episode?
Oh, this was a list situation, Josh. This was sat on my notes pages going, it can't be that. Oh no.
I love the dedication.
This was very tricky, and it was kind of ended up being between two stories. I mean, there's already some fantastic ones in the collection already.
There is. That's the trouble these days. I mean, you may come to it with an idea of what you want to put in, but like I had, half of the stories that I would have put in when I had my go a few weeks ago, they were already in there. So it's like, well, where do I go now?
I mean,
so
there was a certain story I did jump to, but a certain someone put it in very recently, so I wasn't able to select it. But it's good that it's there.
Who was that?
It was yourself.
Was that me? Was it Warbly Yonder?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I looked at the list and I was like,
I've literally just been listening to you before we recorded this, waxing lyrical about Warbly Yonder. Yeah. As I was prepping to record, I was listening to you and Ben talking about Warbly Yonder on your 60th anniversary retrospective.
Yeah. So that was up there, and I'm glad that it's I'm glad that it's there. That's the main thing. It's there, isn't it?
Okay, good. Yeah, it's there.
But yeah, it was a close run thing between two stories. But in the end, I kind of just went with gut feeling, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. And I've kind of had a thing recently with Doctor Who stuff where I just, if I get joy from it, I don't, to hell with all the nitpicky stuff. If it's made me have fun, if it's made me happy, I love it. And I love it for that.
Yeah.
So what I decided to go for the collection is the giggle.
The giggle.
The-
See, now we've got a very, very interesting turn of events here.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact, a few episodes before, Troy, Red Archer Live,
Oh, yeah.
who his episode came out today as we're recording this. He said to me, I want to put the giggle in, but I'm going to put something else in.
Oh.
Because you just put Warbly Yonder in. So I feel like my Warbly Yonder shout has thrown
everything
entire
off.
collection out of proportion, because you couldn't pick the one that you wanted. Troy felt that he couldn't pick the one he wanted because he said, I didn't want to pick the next episode.
Yeah.
He was like, I wanted to vary it up a little bit, so he picked something different. But you have picked the giggle.
I have.
What has made you settle on the giggle?
So much, because I obviously I love Wild Blue Yonder, and I also find it hilarious actually thinking that the 14th Doctor has now got probably the highest percentage of his stories in the collection.
He is up there. You know what? Actually, Chris might beat him.
Really?
Because Chris has got all of his two-parters are in there, so that's 6 episodes out
of the
14,
12,
and then I'm
13?
sure he's got maybe the odd 1 or 2 here. Or
So
there.
maybe
I think he's got 7.
Yeah.
But 14 has got 2/3 of his entire era in within a couple of weeks of the podcast returning. So
yeah, but yeah, I had to go for the giggle because, like I said, it's just joy that I get from this story. There's so much to love about it. Not only was it a really happy time, that 60th anniversary year was such a special time for fans. Such a lovely time as well. Just I remember watching it. It was the first time that I'd watched something in my new flat. I got my brand new telly. This is the first program we watched on it. Me and my girlfriend were sat there with a lovely takeaway, ready to watch the giggle. It was a lovely, happy time, and it's just I remember sitting there and watching that bi-generation moment and feeling we're watching history right now. This is a real landmark moment for the show. Just those scenes of Ncuti and David in the TARDIS together. It was like, I can't actually believe that I'm watching this. I'm watching the old Doctor and the new Doctor interacting already. It was a really bizarre experience, and one that kind of just made me embrace that wonderful thing. In the anniversary year, it made you embrace what's so mad and brilliant about this show. I mean, what finer way to celebrate than a brand new sort of bit of lore, here we go. This is something brand new. And the sort of the subtext of that bi-generation in terms of what it meant, it's that brilliant thing of Russell doing what he does best and turning the alien into something very relatable and human, because here you have a man who is in desperate need of a break, and here's himself being the one to say, and this is beautiful line from Ncuti when they're on the unit building and Ncuti just turns to him and goes, "I've got you." And that, to me, that makes me weep. That because I literally remember watching it the other day, and I was there. I was like, I'm tearing up again. I already did this, but here I am again, tearing up, because this is about telling yourself to slow down, to stop when you need to, and it's the idea of self-help, and I think that this perfectly encapsulates it. It does it in such a Doctor Who way, and I love it for that. I really do. It's got so much to love.
Yeah.
That's not even mentioning Neil Patrick Harris as the toy maker being one of the best villains that we've had, in recent memory, and the wonderful Catherine Tate, Mel coming back, all these beautiful things. But at its core, I think that it did something which I love when Doctor Who does. It spoke to me on a personal level, and it turns the alien into the human, and that's what's so remarkable about this show. So yeah.
Oh, that's
It's a
a
good one.
beautiful way of putting it. You've put that absolutely wonderfully, because I have problems with it. I have things that I like. I have things that I don't like. I think one thing that I would say is that it's a flawed episode. It's got flaws, but I can certainly see that side of things and the enjoyment. And I think that second half is where it really kicks in, when you get Neil Patrick Harris just having the time of his life, and there's
He's
some
spicing
great
up his
visual
life,
imagery.
really.
He's spicing up everybody's life. But as you said, that by generation, it's something that, unfortunately, because of leaks and things like that, a few of us may have been familiar with the idea of what they were going to try and do beforehand, which is disappointing, because you want to be shocked by these things. But the execution of it on screen, I think this is a great example of, don't put everything into leaks, because whatever you're feeling reading it off a Reddit page is not what's going to be conveyed when you see it on screen.
That's not how Russell intended it to be experienced, right? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, the concept of bi-generation is obviously going to appear terrible when it's a second-hand account of somebody who's leaking it, who might have got a glimpse of a script somewhere down the line. Like, I wasn't very shocked to see it, because obviously we'd had those leaks, but I was shocked at how they pulled it off. I think it was better than I thought it would be, and it is a testament to, in my opinion, primarily the direction of it, because I think some people were showing, because there's been a lot of it going around, because as we're recording this again, it was a year ago yesterday that it aired. So there's been a lot of giggle clips around over the past couple of days, and people talking about Chanya Button's direction, especially of the bi-generation scene. That swooping shot over the top,
it's amazing, isn't it?
is such a great shot.
Glorious.
I love that. But the performances as well. I think David Tennant is fantastic through all three of the specials. Catherine Tate is as well. But it's Shooty's debut, and he makes a mad impact in those 15 minutes really that he has to play along.
15, eh?
And
it all works. 15, yeah. It's
15 minutes for 15, and it is a testament to him, because I know that there is an argument that goes around of, he should have had he should have had the limelight for his debut. I think there's fair comments there, absolutely, in terms of whether you think that was the right way to introduce Shooty. It's a very valid opinion, but what you can't argue is that Shooty is working instantly in his first scenes as the Doctor alongside the person who, in the eyes of the British public, is probably even more so than Tom Baker now, the Doctor. He is, if you say Doctor Who to the average person walking down the street, the words David Tennant will probably come out of their mouth. He is an icon. You're also there with one of the most loved companions of all time, and a British icon, comedy icon in Catherine Tate. You're there with sort of British screen legend Bonnie Langford.
Yeah.
You've got Gemma Redgrave. You're
all being watched by Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris is also there. Massive American star who's been on TV screens across the world for decades. You're on top of a fucking tower. Obviously not really, but you're on a helipad in your pants, in front of basically a group of a strange mix of screen royalty.
Yeah.
And you fucking steal the show. That is a great introduction to what Ncuti Gatwa can do as the Doctor. The fact that you can have all of these people in that scene, and you can come in in your pants
Yeah.
and just go, okay, this is my show now.
This is my and it's
and
like
basically just grab it by the bollocks and just be
exactly
like, this is mine now.
Here's this Doctor kind of no post-regeneration sort of unsure about themselves. It's like, no, here's this Doctor, he hit the ground running, literally. And I think it's an altogether different way of introducing the Doctor. And like you say, there's valid criticisms of that, but you can see why that could work and why, in my opinion, it does, because, literally the man's playing against David Tennant, that this is, it shouldn't work. And I really think that it does. And the scene with them two in the TARDIS, and you get coming out with things like the Gods of Ragnarok and Marvik Chen.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is how amazing this show is, that it's this guy talking about this stuff from years ago and making it relevant and giving it impact and
making it believable as well.
Making it believable.
Like you believe that. You believe every word he's saying instantly.
You really do.
And yeah, it's got a lovely send off for the nobles and obviously for David as well.
Mm.
But yeah, Ncuti really is the star of it for me. And like that moment where he's in the TARDIS, he's flying around the console, and his theme really kicks in for the first time in his era. It's like, fucking hell, yeah.
How good's that theme? How good is that theme?
I think you can only really compare it. It's like giving him a bonus 15 minutes to go, okay, we know that you can bring in a Doctor out of nowhere, because we've done it with Christopher Eccleston, and they can be carried by charisma and pure acting ability alone, and you can introduce them to an audience and it's fine. So you could do that just in the Church on Ruby Road and not have him in, but they saw the opportunity to go, let's have a bonus 15 minutes where we really sell the idea of this Doctor, and we give him 15 minutes to shine, and he takes it and runs with it. But yeah, a great pick, I've got to say, because I feel like I've actually mentioned this maybe on every episode so far, but I have read it in the interim. Have you read the Target novel?
I was literally just about to bring that up as well, because the fact that a story that I already loved can suddenly be elevated even more by the wonderful James Goss, who...
Oh, I'm so glad.
It's revolutionary, that book. I adore it. It's a really puzzle book. Good. It's I mean, the way that he deals with Spice Up Your Life, it's a hoot. It's so funny.
It is hilarious.
You just have to read it.
Yeah, I mean, the only book that I can really compare it to, I think I've said this before, is the Day of the Doctor novelisation, because they're two books that really go, okay, what can I do with the format of a book to mess with this reader, and just go, let's just do something that you can only do in a book.
Yeah.
And I've never really read any books like that have done these kinds of things before, and they're both just like the Day of the Doctor one is probably my favourite book of all time. But the Giggle one took an episode that I had things that I liked about it, and I had issues with it, but it really polished everything to a point where it's like, oh, this is a classic.
Yeah,
the Target novelisation version for me is the definitive version of this story. I'm a massive fan of that,
because it tears up the rule book and goes, let's do something that really demonstrates just how mad, especially how mad the character the Toymaker is, and how mad an episode it is, really, because it's crazy, it's insane, and you get the most unique ways of interpreting these moments that I've read in a Target book. And I think that's what's so good about these new series ones, is not just a retelling, but offering a different take on these episodes. Like in Day of the Doctor, where you've got that sort of weird mixed narrative, like in Dalek, where Robert Shearman goes, well, what Dalek, we all know Dalek, so let's delve into these horrible backstories of these characters in a way only Robert Shearman can do. So, even the Rose novelisation isn't just a simple retelling; it's a beautiful weaving of kind of 2005 magic. I don't quite know what it is that it manages to take you back to that time.
I mean, that book canonizes the Graham Norton accidental leak
Yeah.
of audio.
Yeah.
Like, that's just fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I am shocked by your pick. I'm shocked by it. That was not what
Yeah,
I
I
was
thought you might
expecting
be.
at all. I had an idea of what I thought you might put in, and I wonder if it's the other one
Oh.
that you didn't pick.
I'd be interested to hear. What
And-
do you think it was?
Is it another anniversary special?
Yes.
Is it the Five Doctors?
It is that is like a magic trick. That.
Yeah,
No way. Yeah. No,
I know
it is.
this format well. No,
Yeah.
I listened pretty much like 3 days ago to your Five Doctors episode,
Yeah.
and I heard you waxing lyrical, and I knew that
Yeah.
we were doing this, and I was like, I wonder if the Five Doctors might make it in.
Yeah,
But you've
it was
absolutely
honestly
thrown me a curveball.
so close, and like, I think there is a degree of recency bias in terms of the giggle, and also the fact that I've so recently watched it. But I think that, like you were saying, it's not just a favourite story; it's one that means a lot to you. And the Five Doctors means so
Yeah.
much to me as well. But the giggle, really, it's a happy time. That 60th anniversary, I just had a ball
Mhm.
during November and December. It was a gorgeous time, and the giggle was right in the middle of it all. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Oh, that's lovely. And I think I think you've picked the right one, in my opinion, because we are more likely to see the Five
yeah.
Doctors get put in by someone else, I'm
Exactly.
sure, at
Yeah.
some point,
Yeah.
because it's such a pivotal story for so many fans from that era and people afterwards like yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll make
I'm
its way
being
in
nice, really.
at
I'm
some
just
point.
letting someone else have it. That's just
Yeah, very kind. I love this, that the DVD collection has now become such a behemoth that it's like other people's picks are now affecting other people's picks, and it's just
It's meta.
utter chaos at the moment. This is
Yeah.
I mean, our next guest for next week, which is Safia Ingar,
Oh yeah.
I'm going to have to let them know, and if they were going to pick the giggle, it's going to be chaos.
It's thrown it all off. So I love that. I
Yeah.
think that it couldn't be more Doctor Who than the fact that the DVD collection has gained its own sentience.
But the giggle is in. The giggle has made its way in.
I'm so glad to hear that.
14. I mean, David Tennant now is basically the king of the DVD collection, because
Yeah.
I'm sure 10 has the most stories, and now 2/3 of his other era is in.
Yeah. It's greedy, but it, deserved.
Thanks to us two. We both did that. Look at us. Look at what we did.
Look at us, hey.
And I'm sure Elon Musk looks at himself in the mirror sometimes when it comes to Twitter and says, "Look at what I did. I made it a burning hellhole." And I refuse to call it X, but let's take a dive into that fiery pit of shit that is bloody Twitter.
For God's sake! Bloody Twitter!
He gets everywhere, that David Tennant, doesn't he?
He does. He does. He's all over the fucking shop. I'm always happy to see him. Anyway,
Oh, we are.
we've got some questions from our lovely listeners for you, and that is their time to give you a bit of a grilling. The first one is from a friend of the show, Oscar Groucho's. What have you learned about the show by exploring your own creative iteration of it? And what is the greatest lesson Doctor Who has taught you?
Wow. Heavy questions.
Heavy question to start you off with, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, what sort of has the creative approach taught me about the show? Well, it's just reaffirmed the fact that this is and will always be a show that will continue to inspire. And I don't want to get ahead of myself here, because I'm sure I'll be mentioning this at the end of the show, and I should save my answers. But yeah, I think that it's just taught me how beautiful it is that it can inspire both from the show itself and also through other people's creative endeavors. So yeah, I think it's taught me a lot about that. It taught me the sort of the craft that I now work in telly, and that's pretty much all down to Doctor Who, down to shows like Doctor Who Confidential, now Doctor Who Unleashed, teaching me about that process and showing me that you can do this for a job if you want, and here we are. So yeah, I suppose that's how I see that it's kind of taught me. It's both taught me lessons about how to create, and also taught me that the show is endlessly inspiring. What was the other question?
And what is the greatest lesson Doctor Who has taught you?
Oh, me personally, gosh. Never ever eat pears. Hate pears.
There you
Hate
go.
pears.
Do you actually hate pears?
Genuinely, I hate pears.
genuine
They
hatred
are
for
too
pears.
squishy and they run down your mouth. It's not nice. But yeah, as a more philosophical answer, and I think it's just more and more as I get older, it teaches me. And this sounds so soppy, but I get more soppy as I get older. It's taught me just to see the joy in life and appreciate the positivity where you can, and appreciate that there are times when it's harder, but there will always be lightness to be found, and I think that's sort of stuff that I injected into those audio scripts.
Definitely.
That's the kind of theme running through those, is that life's hard, but it gets better.
Another question from Jack at @an_awful_Jack. Friend of the show from an awful lot of running podcast. Yet again, Josh, you continue to book the best guests. Miles is an absolute pillar of the community, and I, like many, have been a massive fan of his work for many years now. Miles's Restless Doctor is one of my favourites, and I can't wait for this. So that's what he started off with.
Thank you. This is always great for the ego. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, it's again, smoke is being blown today. My question is simply, what is Miles's favourite bit of Doctor Who lore? I'm talking stuff like the fact that Chameleon and the TARDIS have a secret love child together, and yes, that one's real. Apparently.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I am sure it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I often, when I think of these weird bits of trivia, I'm sure you, like me, go to the wonderful Davies broke canon.
Oh, yeah. Yes, of course we do.
I mean, there are some weird things that people have done throughout the history of the show. I think, plucking one out of thin air, I like the fact that the Third Doctor is basically just a real-life magician.
Both
God. In the show, making objects appear and disappear, and also levitating whenever he fancies. That guy, honestly.
He can literally do anything. And I would struggle to find something, like if I was listening to an audio, you would struggle to stretch my imagination to the point where I would go, okay, that's a bit unrealistic for the Third Doctor. Like, I think you could probably have him do anything. Yeah.
I challenge Big Finish to do that, literally anything, and it'll probably work. He defies gravity. He literally defies gravity. He levitates. Like, that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah. Well, you've appeared in a multi-Doctor story with the wonderful Third Doctor.
And that was so fun to write, because the Third Doctor, like, dialogue is like, I mean, you can just hear his voice, that John Pertwee, the tones. It's fantastic. So I love writing the Third Doctor, as I loved writing all the other Doctors in the anniversary one that I did as well.
Yes,
and
having all those. Yeah. Well, I've got to say, in a way that I'd say that Big Finish nail. That I feel like they've gotten really good at nailing an era and a vibe. Like with their first Doctor audios, and I haven't listened to much of their Big Finish Third Doctor stuff, unfortunately. But it's like when you listen to sort of like the Stephen Noonan First Doctor stuff, it's like, oh, this feels like a 60s Doctor Who story. Like when you listen to something like The Outlaws, you really get that.
You can feel the crackle of the TV set. It's great, isn't it?
I think Past Lives does a fantastic job of nailing the Third Doctor's era.
I'm glad that was the aim. That was the aim, to be like, here's a new series kind of Doctor, and let's drop them. Not bring the Third Doctor into their world. Pop them in that one. Yeah,
you've melded the worlds beautifully. I need to now learn more about Chameleon and the TARDIS's love child.
I don't. I think that's as far as I want to know about that.
Yeah, maybe it's Jack. Maybe Jack is the love child.
Maybe.
Our mutual writer friend, Joshua Carpenter at JoshuaCC252 on Twitter, has said, "Oh, here we go. Banger of a question coming, lads. What's your favourite Cyberman story?" We all know what he's getting at.
I wonder what Josh was trying to get at there. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, obviously, Josh wrote a fantastic Sideman story for yourself. It's
beautiful.
a joy.
It is a joy. And a good one to listen to. Another Christmassy kind of one. It's very wintry. So if you want to listen to a sort of...
Maybe I'll add that into my little rituals. He said, okay, seriously, you both deserve all the props. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Firstly, what would you both love to see in Series 2? Story points, themes, returning enemies, anything. So let's tackle that question first.
Yeah, interesting. I personally, I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with Ruby, because I think that it's very interesting to kind of have a companion leave and then come back so soon, in the sense of how they've done it. So I'm really interested to see what approach they take in terms of her character, how much she's going to be in it, and all that sort of stuff. That's definitely on top of my list, because I loved Ruby Sunday. So I'm always keen to see more of her. But yeah, what else? I don't know.
I'm excited to meet Belinda. I'm intrigued.
Belinda, yes, that is true. Yeah.
Excited to meet Belinda. In terms of returning monsters, I'm always sort of one to just be like, I love a returning monster. Like, if you chuck a Dalek story at me, I'm gonna lap it up, because I love the Daleks, and I'd love to see Shooty given a Dalek story and have some fun with that, maybe with a new Dalek design. But I love new monsters. I want us to have that moment again where it's like, oh, is this a new classic? Is this like we had with the Weeping Angels? Yeah. Is it like, oh, is this a new iconic monster?
Yeah.
Because even though I think there have been some great new monsters in the new series, that there is that infamous sort of run from like the middle of Series 12 to, essentially War Blue Yonder, if we're counting Beat the Meep as a returning monster, of a pre-existing monster, that the not things are sort of like the first not returning monster. Yeah, the first new villains that are the first episode that doesn't feature. I'm gonna word this better. The first episode to not feature a returning villain since like Can You Hear Me or Praxius or something like that.
Something like that.
So
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a very long run of returning ones. So I'm always keen to see new monsters. I want something different, some wild shit I've not seen before, basically.
Yeah, that's the alternative title to Wild Blue Yonder, I think.
Yeah, wild shit.
I haven't seen before, yeah. And also I'm very interested on that sort of new note to see what new stuff they do with the whole pantheon of gods as well. I think that's going to be interesting.
I would like that.
I'm sure there's going to be quite a few of those popping up. Who knows what more we have awaiting in that pantheon.
And new writers. I know that we are getting new writers. I'm very excited. As of the Doctor Who magazine that arrived on my doorstep a couple of days ago, I know that it has been mentioned that one of the people writing for Series 2 has never written for TV before.
Wow.
And I think two of them, actually. I think one of them has only ever written a short film before.
Right.
So there's two very fresh-faced new writers, apparently.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that.
I think he said 6 writers overall across the series. So it seems like Russell's taken maybe a bit more of a backseat. And letting some new talent sort of take the reins for maybe the middle of the series stuff, which I am much more excited to see.
That's it.
Not that I don't think Russell has writing abilities.
The groundwork's been done, hasn't it? The groundwork's been done in season 1, and it's kind of ready for the playground to be, ready to let the kids loose on it.
Yeah. But again, it's similar to that sort of monster run where we just sort of got consistently, we had a run up until Rogue of like 3.5 years where every story had been either written or co-written by a showrunner or a former showrunner. So it's like, I'm ready for some new
voices. Yeah, lots to look forward to.
And Joshua's second part of his question was, after the bombastic Series 5 story with the Restless Doctor, see, we've already touched on this slightly. What hints and clues can you give us for what's coming next? Now, obviously, I know that I tried to tease some stuff out of you.
Yeah.
Is there, obviously, is there some idea in your head of, or is there multiple ideas at the moment? And is that why you're being quite coy on it?
I think there was kind of an idea that I had, an overarching kind of theme if there is another series, based off the fact that, you know, this ends on a very particular point. The characters of the Doctor and Nancy, they kind of had a bit of a falling out throughout that 5th series. It really I love torturing the Doctor. It's the best thing to do. It's chuck them in the deep end and make them swim. Isn't
it great?
Yeah. So they've really gone through a horrendous ordeal. So there's unfinished business, really. How we deal with that is that I have kind of an idea, but plans always change. But safe to say that if there was an overarching theme for any further stories, that box set would be called Duty of Care, and I'll leave that there.
Oh, that is...
so there we go.
That is interesting. That is very interesting. Very,
but
very
we'll see. Plans always change, so you never know.
Okay. Well, when we stop recording, I'm going to try and get more out of you. You know, I'm going to keep you on this call forever until I get all of those juicy details. And one last thing from Joshua did say, also, multi-Doctor story with Josh Carr when?
Oh, again.
Well, I think that I'm, you know, not saying anything because my series isn't even out yet. Let's be patient. Let me get a story out first.
Yeah.
You know.
Let your Doctor have a run around, for God's sake. Let him
have a bit
to run free.
Let him do something, you know.
Yeah.
But from what I know about my Doctor and what I know about your Doctor, it would be a very interesting pairing.
Oh, sure.
I think it would be prime Doctor bickering.
Yeah, you've got the kind of upper hand here because you've heard
I have,
my Doctor. I have no idea what your new Doctor's going to be like. So, yeah, it's exciting.
I mean, you know, I do a bit, but I am my new Doctor. I am him. So he's in here at the moment. So
excellent.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, maybe one day in the future.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
That's the exactly. There you go. The Tom Baker impressions come out, folks.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, there you go.
You're listening to a Doctor Who podcast now. We've got a couple more questions. We'll try and fly through these. Cal,
let's go.
Dear friend of the show, at Not Plainly on Twitter, has asked, "Oh God, I don't know what to ask. What is your favourite monster?" They have then reviewed their own question by saying, "God, that's weak." But I think
that's a solid question.
Solid, classic question, Cal.
Yeah.
It's fine. Miles, what's your favourite monster?
I mean...
He may be referring to the drink here. We have no idea. He may be referring... What's your favourite flavour of monster?
I mean, that's a good...
Answer both, just in case, you know. Just
both. I mean, I couldn't... I'm not a big monster drinker, I'll be honest.
No, me neither. No, I'm not either. No.
But in terms of my Doctor Who monster pick, I'm going to go for the Autons because I think that there's a lot.
Nice.
I mean, the Autons were the first monster that really scared me, not from Rose, but from just the visuals of seeing how it's sort of carnival masked ones in Terror of the Autons, seeing even images of like Mickey as the Auton. That plastic, it's very scary, and it still quite unnerves me. So Autons, I think, have true power to be scary, and there's so much stuff to be explored with those villains. So I'd love to see them back properly one day. I think that'd be fantastic.
That's a very good answer. It's not one that I feel is many people's favourite.
Yeah,
It doesn't pop up a lot. Because I'm boring. I'd say the Daleks. I fucking love the Daleks.
I mean, we all love the Daleks.
Everyone loves the Daleks,
and I love the Cybermen as well. The Cybermen, there's a lot of great stuff that you can get out of them.
Another dear friend of the show, and a dear friend of yourself, I know, Harry Draper at Bowtie Animation, has come through with a comment on Insta. Harry said, "How did the It's a Sin gig come about?"
Oh, have I ever mentioned this online or anywhere?
I don't know if you mentioned it, because when Harry said this, I was like, is this something I should know about? But I am not sure what it's referring to. So I thought, rather than go digging for it, I would let you tell me face to face.
Well, when I started at university, at Freshers Fair, there was an extras agency advertised, and I was like, well, I've always wanted to try a bit of that. I wanted to get more experience in telly. So what better way than just sort of sit and watch people doing their craft, really. So I signed up for this extras agency, and one of the first shows that I got put forward for was this one called I think it was called Boys at the time. It wasn't even called It's a Sin.
Yeah,
it got changed later down the line because of
the
Amazon series, which is great. But so I went down and got a costume fitting to look like I was in 80s attire, sat on a freezing cold double-decker bus, which was their green room, and we eventually got taken down to this pub set. Well, it was an actual pub, and there was Phil Collinson wandering around and all that sort of stuff. There was 2 stand-ins that sat in for the wonderful, I forget his name, Callum
Scott Howell, I think.
Scott, yes, and also in that scene, Toymaker himself, Neil Patrick Harris.
Wow.
So to be, it's
I
weird
know the
now,
scene you're talking about. I remember the scene that you're talking about. But I've rewatched this earlier this year, but I did not spot you. So maybe I was not paying enough attention.
I'm very blurred in the background, drinking a non-alcoholic beer. I think incredible. I posted it on Twitter with a little circle round me. But that I was within that scene. It was a very long day, but great to sort of be a part of that. And what's I've never mentioned is that I was offered another part on The Boys as an extra, and it was given to me. The little brief was, it's some sort of spacey scene that they're doing. You'd be in this sort of space costume and all that sort of stuff. And I was doing runner work at the time, and I was like, I want to prioritize that. That's what I want to be getting into more behind the scenes. So I said, unfortunately, I'm busy. And imagine my utter dismay when I see all the pictures of the resurrection of the Daleks cut away in It's a Sin, and think, that could have been me.
It could have been you. But
there you go.
You can still technically say that you have appeared in a TV show that also stars the Daleks. So
exactly. And the Toymaker as well. It's the Toymaker
and the
just
Toymaker,
different, messing around in different ways.
Yeah. A few meters away. Wow, I had no idea. I've
never. I don't think I've ever properly talked about it, but there you go. Yeah.
I tell you what, people from the Doctor Who fandom are popping up on telly, left, right, and centre. Because obviously, I had Troy on recently, who I spotted. I was the first person to spot that he was on Limitless Win, Anton Deck's Limitless Win.
Amazing.
When I spotted him in the Next Time trailer, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's Troy!" And literally 2 days ago, I was at my auntie and uncle's house, and The Chase came on the telly, and it was Rhys Connolly from Gallifrey Cabaret.
Oh, amazing!
Fame was on The Chase.
Fans get around,
Bradley
don't they?
Walsh. Yeah, there's people all that, and obviously we'll never forget. If anyone hasn't seen it, please go and pester George to show you. George Sheard dancing in the background of EastEnders on New Year's Eve. It's wonderful stuff.
There you go. So
I've got that saved on my phone for eternity for meme material.
So you can see George dancing in the background in EastEnders, and you can see me getting drunk in the background of a shot with Neil Patrick Harris in it. There you go.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Lovely.
Harry did also say, when do we get a new figure adventure with the Warriors of the Deep Silurian figures, please and thank you. So there you go.
Wow.
The fans are clamouring for it.
Their fans are clamouring for that Warriors of the Deep sequel. Yeah. You write it, Harry, and we'll do it.
Bring back the Merca.
Bring back the Merca.
The final question that I have, which is a great question, from Joe at joebowers00.bsky.social. Oh God, those Blue Sky names are long-winded, but they're over on Blue Sky. Joe has asked if Miles could pick one companion from each extended universe medium, i.e. books, audios, comics, video games, ect, to appear in the TV show, who would it be and why? So you can pick as many as you like. Which ones would you love to see from expanded media?
Oh gosh. Well, how about I do 3?
We'll do 3. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, one of the ones that always comes up is Frobisher, because how can you not want a talking penguin?
We've got to see it, haven't we? I feel like we're at the point of weirdness in media. I mean, again, not to date this episode, but as we're recording this, Jeremy Allen White has just been announced to be cast as Rotter the Hutt in. Oh my God! In The Mandalorian and Grogu, which I've not seen The Mandalorian or whatever, but
you will now.
He's playing
the bear
Jabba the
is
Hutt's,
appearing.
he's playing Jabba the Hutt's son. So it's like, if Jabba the Hutt's son can appear and Beep the Meep can appear,
it's only a matter of time, right? Yeah,
Frobisher is doable.
It's inevitable,
absolutely doable.
Right? Yeah.
Who would you have play Frobisher if you could pick?
That's a good question, because you could get, like
anyone.
Bradley Cooper playing Rocket Raccoon. You could get any sort of, well, if they've had time, any sort of A-lister, and you'd want maybe a Canadian, because I think the original guy who played Frobisher for Big Finish was Canadian. So Ryan Reynolds, imagine that.
Ryan Reynolds. If I had to, I'm not going to go down the Canadian route. I just have a vision in my brain of Al Pacino's Frobisher, and I think it would be beautiful.
Amazing. Amazing.
I just, she's got a great ass.
I'd love
Frobisher's mouth.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
And then we could have a sort of a private eye story with Frobisher, and that. I want to see that.
We all do.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Who are your other two
always
picks?
the obvious choice, Frobisher.
Yeah. Frobisher, of course, yeah.
But who else? I mean, the wonderful Valerie Lockwood from Big Finish.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, Miles.
It's
almost as if Safia Ingar themselves is going to be appearing on Who Knew in 2 weeks' time after you're hearing this episode.
Are they going to be the episode after me?
They are going to be the episode after you.
I mean, there we go. To be ahead of Valerie Lockwood alongside, I mean, what an honour. What a beautiful honour.
What an honour. Yeah, Valerie Lockwood would be incredible to see in the show.
Really great. Or just Safia Ingar in Doctor Who on the telly would be fantastic. So
exactly.
Definitely Valerie. And then I'm going to go for a slightly more obscure one. I'm a big fan of the 8th Doctor Who magazine comics they did back in the 90s. And there's a fantastic comic book companion called Izzy Sinclair, who is basically a comic book geek who ends up being the Doctor's companion. And
that's a very cool idea. I like that.
Yeah, full of joy. Full of excitement because this is like, well, here I am living my dream. It's a really wonderful journey that you go on with her. I think she even shares the first same-sex kiss in Doctor Who history in pages of Doctor Who magazine. I think I remember hearing that Russell wrote in and was like, "Oh, you clever people, this is fantastic." So a brilliant character. I absolutely love Izzy. My girlfriend's called Izzy as well. It's a beautiful, one of my favourite companions and one of my favourite people in the world. I told you I was soppy. So I would say Izzy Sinclair would be a fantastic addition to the Doctor Who universe on on telly.
I don't know anything of Izzy,
Mm.
but I'm sure I'll dive in at some point.
Check
There's
her out. And
too much
the
stuff out
best
there, isn't
run,
there?
I'd say, is The Glorious Dead. It's a really great graphic novel that you can get. It's got a Croton the Cyberman as well, who's basically a
I've heard
Cyberman
of
with a soul.
Croton.
It's
I have
brilliant.
heard of Croton. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Oh, that's
Really good
very
stuff.
cool. But great picks. Great picks.
There you
I'm
go.
very, very supportive of the two that I know, Frobisher and Valerie. I mean,
And you'll be won over by Izzy before you know it.
get them in together. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
sure. Well, that was bloody Twitter. I hope you got out fairly unscathed there, Miles. It was you did well.
I hope
you
so.
Did well.
Yeah.
Not too brutal.
Good.
You're out from the fire now. You're out from the hell pit, and now you're in a lovely, long, warm corridor.
It's very nice here.
The walls are adorned with some incredible legends
Yeah.
of Doctor Who, and that's because you're in the corridor of fame.
Have you ever been limited by who you were before?
One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting
Yeah? Sarah Jane?
Do I have the right?
Some people, small, beautiful events is what life is all about.
In the nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really
Every
confident.
great decision creates ripples. Like a huge boulder dropped in a lake.
But it was a childish dream that made you a doctor. You dreamt you could no more.
I'm not just the time. I'm the last of the kind.
It just disappears, doesn't it? Everything you are gone in a moment, like breath on a mirror.
I do what I do because it's right! Because it's decent! And above all, it's kind!
Love abides in the face of everything.
Beautiful. Can I just say, I love that. I love that little, all those lines from Doctors. I think it's a beautiful summation of.
Well,
of
hope. I mean, I'm not sure where I'll be up to with it at this point, because I'm a while back in the past at this point, but I am working on an updated version. So, because obviously the 14th and 15th Doctors are noticeably vacant at the moment. I'm working on it. And you may be hearing more about that because maybe my listeners will be a part of that process in terms of
exciting
choosing the lines, choosing those lines. You know, it's hard to pick a definitive line for each Doctor. But yeah, thank you for being so.
You're very welcome.
So kind about the intro. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll have seen gorgeous visuals from the one and only Oliver Chenery. A legend,
who's had a hand in the War Games as well.
Exactly. Who has now been working on the War Games. Maybe I'll have to get Oliver on for a chat about that. But yes, we are in the Corridor of Fame. If you are unfamiliar with the concept, it's essentially a Hall of Fame for Doctor Who. So we have many wonderful names selected by my guests that are in here. We have showrunners, we have writers, we have actors, we have composers, we have costume designers, we have all sorts. People who just mean a lot to my guests, people who have had an impact on the world of Doctor Who in some way. And maybe they're a legend in their own right, maybe they're an unsung hero. But all of the Doctors are already in. So, you know, it means that my guests can pick someone a little bit more out there and a little bit different. So, Miles, was this another case of the list? When it came to picking it, it was. Was it tough?
It was very tough because with this, you feel like you really want to pick someone who really means a lot, and it did get, again, it came down to two people. I won't say who the other one was because someone I'm sure will pick them later down the line.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I settled on the pick I did because I feel like they're a very underappreciated figure in the history of Doctor Who, and they're one that I came to appreciate their work so much at a certain point in my life when I was doing my dissertation, and I decided to go for showrunner from the 70s, Graham Williams.
Wonderful. Yes,
Yeah.
I was aware that you did. I don't know where this was buried, but I am aware that you did a dissertation relating to the Graham Williams era, didn't you?
Yeah, I turned it into a YouTube video of how Star Wars
Yes,
had
I remember.
impacted the show around that time. Because imagine being the producer of Doctor Who. You've been brought on because Mary Whitehouse has been having a go at all the violence and horror, and you're told, right, clean it up. And you're thinking, well, if I can't make it scary, what can I do with it? And then suddenly the biggest blockbuster in history of science fiction hits the cinema screens.
A hell of a job. A hell of a tough job that he had. And
it is.
You know, it's fair to say that quite a polarizing figure in the world of Doctor Who in terms of
certainly in
his
terms of
impact and his era.
Yeah.
What has drawn you to him? Because obviously you've got some sort of an affinity with him, because obviously your dissertation and everything like that, and you've selected him for the corridor. So what has drawn you towards him?
I think, like I said, he's often a figure that's underappreciated in terms of Doctor Who, and I think that his era, what he did, both in terms of circumstances and just in terms of the content that ended up coming out of it, I think is much more. It's much better than people give it credit for at a very basic level. But I also just think that it's some really good Doctor Who, and it's Doctor Who that works the best for me personally, and I think gave a lot of influence to how the show, the revival in 2005, was kind of structured, because here was a producer who made the show more comfortably able to sit alongside light entertainment. You can't imagine the Deadly Assassin following the Generation game, whereas you can imagine something like the Ribos Operation or Horns of Nimon for sort of following Brucey. And the way that comedy is used as this sort of secondary genre, and the genre kind of merging and fusion that happens within his era, that happens more so when Douglas Adams comes in, and you get this whole sort of meta sci-fi approach. The Doctor's talking to the camera. The Doctor's openly kind of dismissive of the whole Key to Time season arc as, oh, that's just a bit of mumbo jumbo, in the same way as the Doctor would go to the plot of Star Wars and be like, well, this is ridiculous, isn't it? And I think that someone like Russell kind of latched onto that kind of sensibility and was like, well, let's have political commentary in the form of the Slitheen and make fun of that stuff, you know. And when Moffat comes in and sort of thinks, well, this fourth wall breaking it's great, you know. Here's Peter Capaldi looking to the camera and going, I'm nothing but an audience, you know. It's that that I think sort of originated from the Graham stuff. And he really, I really loved his work on the show, and I think that obviously we recently, with the release of the season 15 box set, we found out more about his life. I haven't seen the documentary, but I do know that it revealed that his life ended in such a tragic way. So I think to go back and appreciate the beautiful work he did, the happiness that came out of his wonderful era, because that's what you can't deny, that there's so much joy. Again, I keep coming back to this, but there's so much happiness in those stories, and it's a bouncy approach to Doctor Who, and I really love what he did with the show, and I think that it deserves a lot more appreciation. And I'd urge you all to go and watch stories from season 15 to 17 and look at them in a new light, really, because there's some corkers there.
Yeah. What are some of your favourites, would you say, from that? From that era?
Sunmakers, which I think is, again, unfairly kind of dismissed as, oh, it's just a bit grey, drab and boring. But if you watch it and go, hang about, these are some of the best characters that I've seen in Doctor Who, and there's some really funny lines in there. Same with the Ribos Operation and the Pirate Planet, Stones of Blood. I mean, the whole of the Key to Time series. And then obviously the wonderful City of Death, which Graham himself wrote alongside Douglas Adams. That's pretty much...
City of Death is one of my favourites. I think it's It's probably my favourite of the Fourth Doctor era.
Yeah, and it is how Williams wanted Doctor Who to be. Yeah, that is literally like here it is. This is what I want it to be, and that's why it works so well. That's why it's one of the most iconic and loved stories out there. There's so much out there to love, so much.
No, I think that is a lovely pick, because when you're looking at, obviously, you know, since 2005, the cycle has been, you know, modern showrunners have had a really, really tough time when it comes to mad criticism and you know, some crazy things that have been thrown their way. You know, just look at the Chibnall era, you know, the things that he had to deal with and the things that were thrown his way. But I think we often sort of neglect the fact that it even though it was under different names and things like that, the same sort of role did exist back then. And, you know, for someone like Graham Williams, they had it really rough. They had, like you've said, it is basically, you know, to make Doctor Who at the toughest time to really make it.
At a height of sort of criticism, with the biggest competition you could find, with budgets being as small as they could possibly get. I mean, the state of Britain, obviously, for doing this dissertation and researching about Britain at the time, it was horrendous. So with all that, and then your leading man is kind of going off the rails a bit and is asking to, you know, do silly things with K9 and all sorts, and you're dealing with all that and you're still making the damn show. It's admirable in and of itself. The fact that there's some really great stories in there and as well is you know, it's amazing.
No, I mean, it's now dawning on me that really he is, just as from a more modern fan's perspective, to put it into context for people who may not know as much about Classic Who, everything that you've just said sort of sounds like the kind of stuff that Chris Chibnall went through with Flux. Like,
as I was saying it, I was like, there's some similarities here.
There's some really similarities where it's like, you know, Chris Chibnall, you know, look at the state of the world, because, you know, Chris Chibnall was having to make a series in lockdowns and all that nonsense, and dealing with the rise of whatever fucking right-wing nonsense is going on at the moment.
Exactly,
This culture wars and things like that, and fighting against that. So I think it's really interesting that, you know, a comparison to draw for anyone who maybe isn't as familiar with Graham Williams, that he's sort of the Chris Chibnall of the 70s, where he's got on a bit of a rough ride, and he's got his detractors, but, you know, maybe we can look back at it and think, fuck, he did a good job to just even make the show, really. Never mind to get some really great episodes and some great stories out of it. So, you know, that's a wonderful pick. That in my opinion, is what the Corridor of Fame is all about. You know, you're always going to get your legends in here, but it really, what I think it's for is it's great when it's highlighting unsung heroes and people
I think
from the
Graham
show
is the
who don't
definition
get their
of
props.
That he's a really lovely figure, and like I said, but through doing this dissertation, I really actually examined his work and found a great love of it, and it's now comfort Doctor Who to me, that stuff. The amount of times I've just put on the Sunmakers, because I mean, that's another one that could have gone in the DVD collection. It's another unloved one that I just think there's a lot in there that I love. So it couldn't have really been anyone else at the end of the day.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that is a wonderful pick, as I said. And he's in the Corridor of Fame. His portrait is hung up in there for forevermore.
What other showrunners are in there as well? I've forgotten what was on the list.
We've got a few in there, I believe. Let me get it up. I'll get it up while we're here. Russell and Stephen are in there.
Of course,
Stephen Moffat was put in by Dan Starkey.
Absolutely amazing.
I think Russ C. Davies got put in by Crystal D, I think. Off the top of my head.
Either way, he's alongside some legends.
I mean, Philip Siegel, technically, in a way. Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's about it, really, I think.
Well, I'm glad to have put him up
Oh,
alongside.
Terrence Dicks is in there as well. He was sort of the godfather of Doctor Who for a while, and Malcolm Hulke was obviously key, but wasn't really showing up. But no, he's in there with those. So
Great.
wonderful pick,
Lovely.
pick. And sadly, that brings us to the end of the show. Miles, I've had an absolute hoot chatting to you tonight. It's been lovely.
So have I.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. But, I know you've listened to the show before, so you know what's about to come and hit you like a ton of bricks. I have one last question for you. And it's a question that everybody struggles with, but they always come out of it in the end. They're always okay, so don't worry. Roughly, in a sentence, Miles, what does Doctor Who mean to you?
I shouldn't have spent so much time deciding whether to go for the giggle or the Five Doctors. Gosh, what does Doctor Who mean to me? I think, Doctor Who means so much. It means that I'm where I am today. It means that I'm doing a job that I love. It means I've met amazing friends, amazing people. It breeds creativity in a way that I don't think many other shows could, and I think that it will continue to do so for a long time to come.
Beautiful, wonderfully put. See, I knew you'd get through it. Everyone gets through it.
It's hard when you're in the moment. When you're in the moment, it's actually quite oof. Yeah,
I know it's hard, isn't it? It's tough. Yeah. It's tough, but you did incredibly well. That's a beautiful answer. And again, you've been a fantastic guest. I am very, very happy that we finally got to do this.
Me too. Me too.
You've been on my list for a very long time, and I am genuinely. I say this. I am such a massive fan of basically everything that you do.
Thank you so much, Josh. I really appreciate it.
The podcast is fantastic. I'm probably going to go finish listening to it once we've stopped recording, so a bit more of your voice going in my ears, and maybe re-listen to a few Across the Universe episodes. But before we go, I'm going to give you the platform to plug whatever you want to plug. Anything you want to promote, anything you want to tease that you're working on, go ahead.
Well, you can find me on Twitter or X, or whatever Elon's calling it these days, at Tailored Vision. You can also find me on Bluesky as well. I decided just to put a little raft there. You never know what could happen.
Yes.
I don't really post on it yet, but we'll see. You can also find me on there at Tailored Vision. Is it _ Bluesky?
.bsky.social, I believe.
Type in at Tailored Vision, you'll probably find it.
Yeah, you'll find it. You'll find it.
And if you want to hear my dulcet tones every 2 weeks, I do a podcast with my mate Ben called Knowing Who, as we've mentioned, and you can find that on socials at Knowing Who Pod, and wherever you get your podcasts for the most part. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so that'll help. So yes, that's
well. I'll link everything down
now.
Below. Everything that you mention, I'll link down below, and I'll link your channel and everything, and you've got playlists on there with all of the audio series episodes. Yeah. So go listen to them, because I implore anybody to do it. You're not going to be disappointed at all.
Please give them a go.
Yes. And when it comes to myself, you've been listening to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. You can find us wherever you get your pods and on YouTube. Please give us a like, a share, subscribe, a review, wherever you can, because it really, really helps me out. Especially at the moment with the comeback and everything. I'm having great fun being back. You can find us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast, on Bluesky as well at Who Knew Podcast. You can find me on both at Josh Ryan Carr. For both of those, you'll find me. And you can find us on Instagram at whoknewdwpod. And if you want to send us an email, you can. It's whoknewdwpod@gmail.com. I am on TikTok as well. I can't remember what the handle is. I'm sure you'll find it, but it's linked below.
You're on all the bases.
I am. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really juggle them very well. I don't think I've posted on TikTok for like 2 years, but
I think
maybe
are
I'll
we
get
on
it
TikTok?
back up.
I can't remember if
Are you
Ben's
on
got us a
TikTok?
TikTok. Ben's in charge of all the socials.
You might be.
I think we might be.
Well, if you are,
he just says we're going to film this, and I'll be like, okay, sure, let's do it.
Well, I'll make sure to plug all of your stuff below, and you can find all of our links down below as well. And there's a Ko-fi coffee link, whatever. If you want to send us a couple of quid if you're feeling kind, you can. You don't have to. It's January. Everyone's skint. Don't worry.
Hell yeah.
But yes, and I'll be back with, as previously mentioned, the wonderful Valerie D. Lockwood themselves.
What a guest.
Safia Ingar, star of the 11th Doctor Chronicles, which is, in my opinion, probably one of the best runs of Doctor Who ever made.
Yeah.
I think you would agree. I know that you're a big fan of the 11th Doctor Chronicles as well.
I would agree. It's blooming great.
Good. Yeah, fantastic. I'm so excited for that one. But yes, thank you again, Miles, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute joy having you here.
Thank you. It's been a joy being here as well, and I always love having a natter about our favourite show.
Yes.
So, and it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? It's really nice to actually sit down and do this.
Yeah, because we've met a couple of times in real life, but I feel like it's been at the BFI. It's always been a bit hectic.
It's been a hectic bar situation.
Yeah, it's been nice to have a nice one.
Thinking about overpriced drinks and all sorts.
Oh God, yeah. But yes, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being so generous with your time, and good luck with everything that you're working on, because I can't wait to see what you're working on next. So.
And the same to you, mate. Same to you.
Lovely. And to everybody listening at home, thank you for listening. And hope you have a great couple of weeks. So see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. You can find us wherever you get your pods and on YouTube. Please give us a like, share, subscribe, and a review if you can. It really helps us out. Massive thanks to Oliver Chenery for the Corridor of Fame intro, and the Sononauts for lending their cover of the Doctor Who theme to be the theme for the podcast. Who Knew is a New Kid Media production.